Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining me again. My name is Wilky and we received a new Dev Talk feedback and I think this is really cool. The first thing I want to say is just a big thank you, obviously to my viewers, but also to the Once Human community and the Once Human people, the staff, because this is not the norm. It should be, but it's not. And they are genuinely taking in the feedback and they're trying to address issues, or they're trying to understand issues a bit better, which I think is huge. This is great. This is, as I said, this is not always the norm, unfortunately, even though it should be. I'm genuinely very happy that this is something that is happening here in the game, because I do truly believe that this game can pretty much become something really, really big if they steer it in the right direction. Needless to say, they are addressing two issues that have been presumably mentioned most of the time, so we're going to quickly cover those. The first thing is about weapon builds. We understand that the new season tags have resulted in changes to the metagame, affecting build and weapon choices, which has caused some players to feel like their previous effort has gone to waste. This was not our intention, so we plan to add a blueprint conversion feature to resolve the issue. Now, in case you're wondering what they're talking about, is the season tag. If you press escape, you go to your season banner, and if you're not on a novice server, it doesn't matter if it's hard or normal, but new servers have these super anomalies. Now, on my server, there's currently the Deviant Invasion with Void and Region. There's the Coherence, and I forgot what the other super anomaly was, but essentially you have two anomalies that can spawn in your server. In order to deal with those anomalies, you either use the respectively labeled out damage type or a cradle override. Cradle overrides are these here. For example, in case I want to counter Void, I need to use a shotgun or a rifle, and I need to use the respective cradle, and then I can deal damage to Void. Now, luckily, for me personally, these enemies aren't very frequent. They do seem to spawn in hard silos, and they will probably spawn in pro mode silos as well, but other than that, they're not very frequent, at least not in the open world. However, I can understand some people being genuinely not happy about this because it forces you to use a specific gun slash loadout, and for me personally, it's just a nuisance because I use pistols and shotguns so I can counter the enemies with the respective cradle. But let's just assume, right, obviously this is a fabricated example, but let's just assume you use the Kumowink SMG, right, which is a bounce gun, and let's just say you're using the Predator MG4. So you're having fast gunner and bounce, and none of these guns have the right element or are mentioned in the guns in the cradles. So if you were to run this specific build, which, as I said, this is fabricated, but I think you get the point here, there are some item and build choices that just do not match up with what the server has been thrown at you. So I can understand the people here, and I genuinely think this is good that they're trying to address this. So how they're gonna, or how they try to fix this is with the so-called blueprint conversion. And what this should allow us to do is to swap our ratings. In case you don't know what ratings are, this is about the stars. So if you go to your blueprints, you can see my Memento has 2 stars, and all the other guns have 1 star. My Doombringer as well, 2 stars. So they will allow you to swap around these stars, or these levels, between different guns. Separately for armor and weapons, I think this is very good. And there seems to be no limitation in terms of weapon types or something. As an example, they mentioned you have a Last Valor 3 stars and an Outer Space 1 star, and you can switch them, so Last Valor is becoming 1 star and Outer Space is 3 star. So if we take a look at this here, let's just assume we have Outer Space 1 star and Last Valor 3, and we can just swap those. Genuinely, I really like the idea. I think this is something that should have been built into the game to begin with, but that's a different story. And conversion chances are counted separately for armors and weapons. I think that's really good, and they are restored over time and with each new season. So whenever you go into a new server, you will get X amount of charges, or chances is what they're calling them here. We don't really know any details yet. So and there is a cap on the number of conversion chances that can be accumulated. Genuinely, I really like the idea. I think it sort of contradicts a little bit with the game design that they try to go with. But in all honesty, I think this is really good. The only thing that I would really see is, for example, if they were to give us an opportunity to reset our blueprints. And the reason for that is, obviously, this is a very specific choice, if you will, but I'll show you an example here. I, for example, when I rolled on my blueprints for the gacha machine, I ended up getting a lot of bingo fragments. Now, as you can see, same name fragments provide double the experience. So, depending on your RNG and how many items you've obtained and stuff like that, it would be feasible that there might be people that can get a 5, maybe even a 6-star legendary blueprint. So what I would like to see from this mechanic, or at least when it's implemented, is they should give us a way to reset all of our spent blueprints right now, get the experience back with at least like dummy fragments or something, because I think it's going to be incredibly difficult to roll back all the items that players used. Ideally, obviously, you'd give them back exactly what they had before, and because right now with that feature, what that essentially means is if you get to clean out one gun, and depending on RNG, this might be one or the other, but as long as you can switch those blueprint stars around, it doesn't really matter in the end. But genuinely, I'm very happy about this, but I would really love to see this alongside a reset in order to give people an actual choice and to correct their mistakes, if you will, but this is left to be seen. The other issue is, during the signups for the new scenario, we noticed that players tended to be unsatisfied with scenario tags. Again, the tags are specific enemies, as well as certain boosts to specific elements or mechanics, right? So, on top of the season tag, we have a keyword enhancement for Unstable Bomber, Power Surge, Bullseye, and Bounce. And for me personally, that only means that there are cradles that buff that respective element. Now, there was an issue when we went into the new server. There was only one hard mode server. So we had, if you wanted to play on a hard mode server, you had to choose this. There was no opportunity unless I would not want to play on a hard mode server, which I wanted. So this limited me to actually move to the server despite other servers being better, because I'm using a fast gunner setup, and there are actually servers that use or that have buffs for the fast gunner and even have fast gunner items in their wish machine. So needless to say, potentially other servers would have been better for my build, but I didn't really have a choice. So they're now trying to address this, and they also open a survey, so I highly recommend everybody going here and putting your stuff down there in a constructive way or manner if really possible. So yeah, I think in genuine, this is the bigger issue of the two, and I'm really happy that they're trying to address this. Obviously, we don't really know when or how this is then really going to look like, but from what they have given us so far, I think it's really, really good, and it can solve a lot of issues. It brings up one or two other issues, but, you know, that's usually the case when trying to fix things. There might be other things that will then surface. So, genuinely, what they're talking about here is to better cater to players' needs. This is the survey. But they're pretty much just talking about this here, that if attack is popular, they're giving more servers up for running, because there's a lot of people that run a specific build, for example, and there was a limited amount of server and specific tags, so they're just making it easier for people to choose this server that they want to play on in terms of build or items that they're using, alongside with the difficulty and settings, which I think is great, because as I mentioned before, I wanted to play on a hard mode server because I wanted the extra star crom, so this is the only server back then. Now this is a bit of a different story, but back then, this is the only server that I could have picked, so I was pretty much stuck there, and now I have to, luckily my build is suitable for all of this, but that's not always the case for people, so yeah. Pretty much that is really everything there is to it. As I mentioned, the post is here. The server is here as well. I will put, no, actually I will not put this because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to put any of these links elsewhere, so I'm not going to be putting anything down there. Just join the Discord, go to the Dev Talk, call for feedback on new season issues, and answer the survey. And that is it from my side. Thank you everybody for being here. I hope that this was insightful and maybe giving you a slight glimpse of hope that there are changes on the horizon which can potentially change how the game is played and how much people would potentially enjoy the game. So keep your eyes peeled. I'm happy to have you guys here, and I'll see you guys next time.